Patience. They think waiting means doing nothing. They think silence means surrender, but patience, real patience, isn't the absence of action. It's the slow sharpening of a blade behind a smile. I don't rush. I don't chase. I watch. And while they burn themselves trying to prove they're ahead, I'm already there, standing in the ashes of their noise. People mistake speed for progress. They think the loudest one wins, the one who moves first, speaks fastest, burns brightest. But bright fires die young, don't they? They flash, they scream, they vanish. The ones who wait in the dark, the ones who sit still, watching, calculating, they're the ones who rewrite the ending. The world is full of people who can't stand the silence, so they fill it with meaningless movement. Me, I fill it with power. They say patience is a virtue. They're wrong. It's a weapon, a quiet, merciless weapon forged in restraint. You let them talk. You let them underestimate you. You let them think they've won. And while they're celebrating their illusion, you're building something they'll never understand. Control. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't beg, doesn't need validation. I've seen men crumble because they couldn't wait 5 minutes for what was already theirs. I've seen kings destroy their thrones chasing ghosts. I've seen fire consume itself long before it touched its enemy. The impatient always lose, not because they weren't strong enough, but because they didn't know how to stand still while the world tore itself apart. So I smile, I wait, I let them rush toward their downfall. Because patience isn't about time, it's about power. And the longer they try to break me, the more they realize I'm not waiting for them. I'm watching them burn themselves out. They hate the waiting. It eats at them. The silence, the stillness, it terrifies people who can't survive without noise. They want reactions, chaos, conflict. They want to see me stumble, see me rush, see me lose control. But I don't move. I let the tension rot in the air like a corpse they can't bury. Because that's what patience does. It suffocates the impatient. They throw words like stones, hoping one will make me flinch. You're weak. You're scared. You're done. They want a spark, a hint that I'm breaking, but there's no spark left for them to touch. Just cold steel under a grin that doesn't fade. They think they're in control because they're loud, but volume isn't strength, it's desperation. The louder they get, the closer they are to collapse. The funny thing is, I've learned to hear what hides behind their noise. Fear, doubt, the trembling truth that maybe, just maybe, I've already won. Because while they're burning energy to prove they matter, I'm gathering mine like a storm waiting for its moment. I don't rush the lightning, I become it when it's ready to strike. Patience isn't peace, it's precision. Every insult, every test, every trap, they all have a pattern. The world repeats itself over and over. And when you stop rushing, when you just watch, the pattern reveals the weakness in everyone. you start to see how fragile they are, how predictable their chaos really is. That's when you stop fearing them. So I let them talk. I let them scream. Because I know how this ends. The loudest ones always burn out first. And when the noise fades, I'll still be standing here, calm, smiling, untouched. That's what patience does. It outlives the storm. They think patience is peace. They have no idea how violent stillness can be. Inside there's a storm pacing behind the bars of a smile. Every word they spit, every look they give, hits like sparks on a closed fist. But I don't move. Not yet. I let the fire crawl under my skin, slow and deliberate. Because when I finally move, it won't be noise, it'll be precision. They keep asking why I don't fight back. They think silence means defeat, but silence isn't retreat, it's reload. Every insult, every doubt, every attempt to drag me into their chaos only feeds the weapon they can't see. That's the thing about patience. It doesn't shout, it waits, it studies, it remembers. And when it strikes, it never misses. The hardest part is pretending you don't notice, pretending their little games mean nothing, while your mind memorizes every detail. The way they smirk when they think they've won, the way their voices tremble when you don't respond. That's the real trick. Control so deep it looks like calm, but inside the storm's rehearsing its lines. I've learned that patience hurts. It stretches you thin until you can hear your own pulse echoing like a drum. But that pain, it's refining you. It's burning out the parts that react too soon, that speak too fast, that need to be seen. When the world's shouting for attention, the quiet one always becomes the ghost they can't forget. So I let it ache, I let it burn, because I know the ending. They'll rush into the fire trying to destroy me, and I'll still be here, untouched, waiting. That's what they never understand. I don't need to strike first to win. I just need to last longer than their rage. They keep testing me, pushing, waiting for that one crack in the mask. The world doesn't know what to do with someone who doesn't flinch. They poke, they provoke, they whisper just loud enough to be heard. They're desperate for a reaction, any reaction to prove they still matter. But I give them nothing, only stillness. And the stillness terrifies them more than any scream ever could. Patience isn't quiet anymore. It's pressure. It builds behind the ribs, in the jaw, in the pulse you pretend not to feel. They think they're winning because I'm not fighting back. They think control looks like dominance, but what they can't see is that every second they spend trying to break me, they're the ones unraveling. Because patience has a cost, and I'm not the one paying it. They are. Their voices start to crack. Their certainty starts to rot. The louder they get, the more they sound afraid. I've seen this before. The moment when predators realize their prey doesn't run anymore. That's when fear shifts sides. That's when the silence starts to hunt. They try to call it arrogance. They say I've lost my edge, that the fire's gone out. But the truth is simpler. The fire's still there, it's just not for them. I don't waste flames on people who burn themselves. I just watch, and the waiting becomes delicious, because every second stretches their nerves thinner until they're trembling under the weight of their own impatience. Let them think they're in control. Let them talk. Let them mistake my silence for surrender. Because when patience ends, it doesn't explode, it consumes. And when it does, they'll realize too late that all the while I wasn't holding back for them. I was holding back for effect. They thought I'd break. They waited for the scream, the collapse, the confession. But patience isn't about breaking, it's about timing. And my timing is perfect. I didn't fight their chaos. I let it eat itself alive. Every trap they set, every word they threw, every test they thought would crack me, it all circled back, crushing them under the weight of their own impatience. I didn't win by force. I won by waiting. They never realized that patience is the cruelest revenge. Because while they burned out chasing control, I built mine in silence. I learned the rhythm of their panic, the sound of their fear when the noise runs out. I let them believe they were leading when all along they were dancing to my stillness. Power isn't speed, it's duration. And I can outlast anyone. The day they finally stopped, something changed. The laughter died, the tension broke, and for the first time they looked at me, not as the fool who waited, but as the mirror of everything they couldn't control. That's when they saw it, the grin. That quiet curve that said, I've been here all along. They thought I was waiting for my turn. I was waiting for theirs to end. Patience doesn't make you kind. It makes you inevitable. The more they rushed, the slower I became. The slower I became, the stronger I grew. And when I finally spoke, it wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was the whisper that ends the storm. Subscribe, not for me, not for them, for the silence they tried to bury. Because the moment you stop begging for space, you take it. The world finally slowed down. Not because it wanted to, because I made it. Every voice that once echoed around me started to sound smaller, thinner, easier to ignore. The noise that once ruled the room now belonged to me, bent around my stillness. Patience doesn't ask for power, it takes it quietly, without ceremony. And that's what I did. I took everything they thought was theirs simply by refusing to rush. You can see it in their eyes now, the uncertainty. They don't know when I'll move or if I ever will. That's the beauty of control. When you stop reacting, you become unpredictable. They can't read silence. They can't measure calm. They can't fight what doesn't fight back. They're drowning in the very chaos they created to destroy me. I walk slower now, deliberate. Every step makes them flinch. Every glance reminds them I don't need their pace, their rhythm, or their rules. They taught me impatience through pain. I taught myself control through it. Now every second I wait feels like a countdown they can't hear but can't escape. People always say time heals. They're wrong, time reveals. And the longer I wait, the more truth bleeds through their lies. The more silence stretches, the more they crumble under it. They thought they could bury me under pressure, but pressure only makes diamonds, cold, unbreakable, and sharp enough to cut through their illusions. So I let them watch. I let them drown in the suspense they built, because that's what patience does. It turns waiting into a weapon. And when I finally move, it won't be rage they face. It'll be inevitability. They don't speak as much anymore. Even their whispers sound afraid. Every time I walk into a room, the air shifts like it remembers what silence can do. It used to be their weapon. Now it's mine. Funny, isn't it? They mocked me for waiting, for being still, for not fighting back. And now they can't breathe in the space I've created. That's what patience does. It rewrites gravity. They still watch me, trying to predict what I'll do next. But how do you predict someone who no longer reacts? Their world runs on emotion. Mine runs on control. I see every twitch, every nervous glance, every forced smile. They think I don't notice, but I do. I just don't care. Indifference cuts deeper than hate. It's colder, cleaner, final. Once they fed on my silence to feel powerful. Now they can't survive under it. Every moment stretches like a wire ready to snap. The room gets heavier. Their laughter sounds forced. Their confidence hollow. They're not afraid of me. They're afraid of what my patience says about them. That they rushed, that they begged, that they broke first. I've become what they feared, the reminder that not reacting doesn't mean not feeling, it means understanding too much. I don't need revenge. Watching them destroy themselves in slow motion is enough. Every word they said comes back to them, twisted by their own guilt. That's the price of rushing. You never see the reflection until it's too late. And me, I just smile. Because patience doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need witnesses. It simply endures. And when endurance turns to power, it doesn't roar. It whispers, I told you to wait. It's strange how quiet the world becomes when it realizes you're not rushing anymore. The same mouths that once spat fire now whisper in guilt. The noise they used to drown me out has turned into echoes that haunt them. They can't stand the silence because in it they finally hear themselves, and what they hear isn't strength, it's fear. Every room I walk into holds its breath. They don't look directly at me anymore. They used to laugh, now they study the floor. Their certainty has rotted into tension, their energy twisted into hesitation. I didn't raise a hand, didn't say a word, but they feel it, the weight of every second I refused to give them. That's what patience does. It collects interest on pain. The quiet stretches between us like glass, thin, fragile, ready to cut. I can see them waiting for me to speak, to react, to break the silence that's suffocating them. But why would I? Breaking it would set them free, and I like them right where they are, trapped in the cage they built with their own noise. Patience isn't passive, it's punishment. Every breath they take feels stolen, every movement uncertain. They start to question everything, what I'm thinking, what I'll do, if I'll ever move again. They imagine the worst, and that's where I win. Because I don't have to lift a finger. Their imagination does the work for me, so I stay still. I let them drown in their own tension, because that's the secret no one wants to admit. Silence doesn't just end conversations, it owns them. And when you learn to master it, you don't need to fight for power, you become it. You can always tell when the silence starts to win. The air changes first. It gets heavier, like it's holding its breath. People start whispering softer, moving slower, looking over their shoulders without knowing why. That's what happens when patience becomes presence. It seeps into everything until even the walls seem to listen. I've stopped speaking altogether. I don't need to. The echo of everything I didn't say is louder than anything they could shout. They used to believe control came from dominance, from forcing outcomes, from making noise. Now they understand the truth. Real control is the absence of reaction. When you stop reaching, the world starts coming to you. I can feel it, the tension spreading. Their laughter doesn't return anymore. Their words don't fill the void. It's like the entire world's waiting for me to break the silence, but I never do. I let it grow until their thoughts get tangled in it. They start second-guessing themselves, apologizing for things I never mentioned, confessing to crimes I never accused them of. That's what patience does. It turns their own minds against them. They wanted noise. They got consequence. They wanted victory. They got reflection. Every impatient soul eventually meets the mirror of what they rushed to escape. And when they do, they realize I was never their opponent. I was the reminder, the living proof that waiting isn't weakness. It's the death of everything that isn't meant to last. So I stand there, motionless, watching the quiet do what I never had to. The silence spreads like smoke, invisible but inescapable. They tried to own time. I became it. They finally stopped asking when I'd react. Somewhere along the way, they realized I never would. That realization hit harder than any scream ever could. They built their power around the idea that I'd eventually lose control, that I'd break the silence, rush the moment, prove them right. But I never did. And in that waiting, I took everything from them. Their noise is gone now. What's left is the echo of their own impatience, the ruins of everything they tried to build too fast. I don't need revenge. I don't need closure. Watching them collapse under the weight of their own haste is enough. That's the reward of patience. You don't win with speed. You win by being the last one standing when the noise runs out. I walk slower now. I speak less. Not because I'm calm, but because I've learned control is louder than chaos. Every second I waited was a blade sharpening itself in silence, and now I don't need to swing it. The sound of their regret cuts deep enough. They'll tell stories about me, about how I didn't fight, didn't chase, didn't rush. They'll call it arrogance or madness or luck. But the truth is simpler. I understood the rhythm of destruction. It always begins with noise and ends with quiet. So I smile, not out of joy, not out of pride, but out of certainty. They wanted me to hurry. They wanted me to break. Instead, I became the reminder that time isn't the enemy. It's the weapon, and patience is the hand that holds the blade.